All right, let's jump right in. We're heading over to southern Spain, where archaeologists have found something, well, just breathtaking. It's this incredible window into our ancient past, and it's completely changing what we thought we knew about prehistoric life. So, just to give you some perspective on this, we're talking about a tomb that's been sealed for 5,000 years. Seriously, that's older than the Great Pyramids. It's older than Stonehenge. I mean, that is an almost impossible amount of time to even wrap your head around. And get this, it's not just ancient, it's huge. We're talking 43 feet long. To put that in perspective, that's about the length of a school bus. This thing is an absolute monster of prehistoric engineering. Okay, so let's really dig into the details of this monumental find. Out in Andalusia, archaeologists have uncovered what they're calling one of the most, if not the most, well-preserved funerary structures from this entire period. And what they found? It's a very specific kind of prehistoric monument. It's called a dolmen, and you can basically think of it as a kind of house for the dead. Built out of these gigantic, upright stone slabs, they're called orthostats, by the way, and then they're topped with another massive, flat stone for a roof. It's just this incredibly powerful, primal kind of architecture. You know, the way this thing was preserved is just fascinating. So picture this. The walls are made from these stone slabs that are over 6.5 feet tall. They're capped with even more giant stones. But then, and this is the genius part, the whole structure was buried under this man-made mound of sand and stone called a tumulus. That's the secret sauce right there. That protective layer is exactly why it's in such pristine condition after 5,000 years. Now look, the structure itself is absolutely incredible, but the real story, the thing that gets archaeologists' hearts racing, is what was waiting inside. What can it tell us about the people who actually built it? And that's the big question, right? It's the question that drives every single dig. What did these ancient people leave behind for us? What kind of clues are just waiting there to tell us about their lives, their beliefs, their entire world? And here's something really important. This wasn't a tomb for, a king or some single powerful ruler. Nope. Archaeologists found several ossuaries inside. Those are basically small graves holding bones. And that tells us this was a collective burial site. It was a final resting place for an entire community. And you better believe they weren't sent into the afterlife empty-handed. They were buried with this absolute trove of what we call grave goods. We're talking precious items. Seashells, pieces of ivory, amber beads, along with these really sophisticated flint arrowheads and blades. And the real showstopper, an incredible halberd. That's a kind of spear-axe combo weapon that just perfectly shows off their amazing craftsmanship. So, finding all this cool stuff is one thing, but figuring out what it all means, that's where the real detective work comes in. Every single artifact is like a clue, a piece of a giant puzzle that helps us build a picture of this ancient society. So, what are these clues telling us? Well, you find seashells hundreds of miles from the coast? Boom! That's direct evidence of trade. You find exotic stuff like ivory and amber? Those are prestige items, right? Status symbols. And the weapons and tools, they give us a direct look into their technology, maybe even how their society was structured. And one of the researchers, Juan Jesus Quintil, put it perfectly. He said these seashells are basically a clear signpost, pointing to the existence of long-distance exchange networks. The bottom line, these communities were not living in a bubble. So the big takeaway here, the why this matters part, is that these communities, 5,000 years ago, were deeply interconnected. This find just shatters that old, outdated picture of prehistoric people being all isolated. No way. They were trading goods, they were trading ideas, and they were trading culture across huge distances. Okay, so it's clear this tomb was a real hub for its community. And that actually gets at the bigger picture of what dolmens were all about, because they were way, way more than just burial sites. I mean, think about it. The dolmen was central to pretty much every part of ancient life. So one, yeah, of course they were for funerary rites. But two, they were also powerful territorial markers. It was like planting a giant flag saying, this is our land. 3, they were hubs for community rituals. And 4, get this, some of them were even aligned with celestial events, like the solstice, basically acting as these massive ancient calendars. How cool is that? And all of this brings us right back to why this specific discovery in Andalusia is just so ridiculously important. It's not just another pin on the archaeological map. Think of it more like a high-definition photograph of the past, suddenly coming into focus. The project's co-director, Eduardo Vianda Vila, really hit the nail on the head. He explained that the preservation is the key here. Because everything is so perfectly intact, researchers can go way beyond just general ideas. They can get a really detailed understanding of how these people actually lived, what they believed in, what mattered to them. Just pause and think about that for a second. This isn't just dry history. It is a literal time capsule. It's a direct, physical link to our ancestors who lived, something like 200 generations before us? It's just an incredible bridge across this huge gap in time, connecting us right back to our shared human story. And all of this, really, leaves us with one final, kind of tantalizing question, doesn't it? This amazing tomb was hidden away for 5,000 years. It really makes you wonder, what else is still out there? What other secrets are just buried right beneath our feet, waiting to tell us about a world we're only just starting to understand?